Revelation chapter 14, verse 12 states, "Here is the patience of the saints, here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus." This verse provides a pivotal moment in the narrative of Revelation. After the harrowing descriptions of judgment and the eternal torment of those who worship the beast, this verse offers a contrast by highlighting the endurance and faithfulness of the saints. It is a call to perseverance and faith in the midst of tribulation, affirming the steadfastness required of God's people during the darkest times. The term patience of the saints can be more accurately understood as endurance or perseverance. This is not a passive waiting, but an active and steadfast holding on to faith in the face of intense persecution and trial. In the context of Revelation, where believers are confronted with the deceptive and oppressive power of the beast, this endurance is critical. The saints are those who continue to stand firm in their faith, despite the allure and threats posed by the beast and his followers. Endurance is a recurring theme in the New Testament, particularly in the writings of Paul and the book of Hebrews. In Romans chapter 5, verses 3 through 4, Paul writes, "And not only that, but we also glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope." This passage emphasizes the refining process that tribulation brings, producing a steadfast character that ultimately leads to hope. Similarly, James chapter 1 verses 2 through 4 states, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." Endurance is not merely about surviving, it is about growing in faith and character through the trials. The saints described in Revelation chapter 14 verse 12 are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. This dual focus on obedience and faith is crucial. Keeping the commandments of God indicates a life lived in accordance with God's laws and principles. It reflects a commitment to holiness and righteousness, despite the pressures to conform to the world. This is not legalism, but a response of love and devotion to God. Jesus said in John chapter 14, verse 15, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Obedience to God's commandments is a natural outflow of a genuine love for Him. The phrase, "the faith of Jesus," signifies not only faith in Jesus, but also the faithfulness modeled by Jesus. The saints are those who hold firmly to their faith in Christ, trusting in His redemptive work and His promises. This faith is not mere intellectual assent, but a deep, abiding trust that influences every aspect of their lives. It is the faith that endures through trials, grounded in the example of Jesus Himself, who remained faithful to the Father even unto death. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 2 exhorts believers to look to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before Him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. This combination of obedience and faith is essential for endurance. It is not enough to simply believe. That belief must be lived out through obedience to God's commandments. Conversely, obedience without faith becomes empty ritualism. True perseverance requires both a steadfast faith in Christ and a commitment to living according to God's will. The context of Revelation underscores the necessity of this endurance. The saints are not enduring in a vacuum, they are enduring in the face of severe persecution, deception, and the pressure to conform to the beast's system. In Revelation chapter 13, verses 1 through 18, the beast and the false prophet deceive the inhabitants of the earth, compelling them to worship the beast and take his mark. The refusal to do so results in economic hardship and persecution. Yet, the saints are those who resist this pressure, choosing to remain faithful to God even at great personal cost. The endurance of the saints serves as a powerful testimony to the watching world. It demonstrates the reality and power of their faith, proving that their allegiance to Christ is not based on convenience, but on a deep, unshakable conviction. This is the same kind of testimony that the early Christians provided when they faced persecution from the Roman Empire. Their willingness to suffer and even die for their faith was a powerful witness to the truth of the gospel. Furthermore, the endurance of the saints is not based on their own strength, but on the strength that God provides. Philippians chapter 4 verse 13 declares, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." This reliance on Christ is essential for true perseverance. It is through his power and presence that believers can endure the trials and tribulations they face. This call to endurance is not just for the saints in the time of revelation, but for all believers throughout history. We are all called to persevere in our faith, to keep the commandments of God, and to hold fast to the faith of Jesus. This endurance is necessary because we too face pressures to conform to the world, to compromise our faith, and to abandon our commitment to Christ. The same principles that apply to the saints in Revelation apply to us today. In addition to perseverance, this passage calls us to a life of active obedience and faith. We are to be doers of the word and not hearers only, James chapter 1 verse 22. Our faith must be evident in our actions, in the way we live our lives, and in our commitment to God's commandments. This means living lives of integrity, holiness, and love, reflecting the character of Christ in everything we do. Moreover, the endurance of the saints is ultimately about hope. The trials and tribulations we face are temporary, but the promises of God are eternal. Revelation chapter 21 verses 3 through 4 promises a future where God will dwell with his people, where there will be no more death, sorrow, crying, or pain. This hope sustains us and gives us the strength to endure. It reminds us that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Romans chapter 8 verse 18. Revelation chapter 14 verse 12 calls us to endurance, obedience, and faith. It challenges us to remain steadfast in our faith, to keep the commandments of God, and to hold fast to the faith of Jesus. This endurance is not passive, but active, requiring both faith and obedience. It is sustained by the strength that God provides and motivated by the hope of his promises. As we reflect on this verse, let us be inspired to live lives of endurance, to stand firm in our faith, and to be faithful witnesses to the truth of the gospel. Let us keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, knowing that our perseverance is a powerful testimony to the world and a reflection of our love for Christ.